So this recording is going to be all about how to create a mask. I'm going to get started by creating a blank file. And when I create a mask, typically it's suggesting that there's going to be a shape over another set of shapes that allow you to only see certain aspects of it. So let me demonstrate. So I'm going to get started by creating a circle that's going to be utilized as a symbol of sorts. And let us set this up as an oval primitive with an inner radius of about this and the stroke size a little bit larger so we can see it. So perfectly shaped circle there. Let me increase my inner radius a little bit. Oops, there we go. And overall, I'm going to select this and make it a little bit smaller in size, holding the shift key and decreasing my stroke just a little bit. Okay, so this is my first little symbol that I've created here. We're going to call this the target of sorts. So with it selected, we're going to go to Modify, Convert to Symbol, or press the F8 key. We're going to call this one Target. And we'll leave this as a graphic choice and choose OK. So now that I've created myself this symbol, it's sitting in my library, I'm now going to remove it from my stage area. Let's create yet another symbol. Okay, so let's go in and I'm going to create myself a polystar, and let's go in and modify this to a star, and we'll say OK to this. And for this one, we'll change up the colors. Modify it with blue and pink. And once again, here's our star. That looks pretty cute. And we'll go have it selected, go to Modify, Convert to Symbol, and we'll call this one again Star. All right. And because again it's in the library, I'm going to delete it off my main stage area. It's just an easy way for us to create different shapes and objects. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create the first mask on the main timeline, and then I'll show you how to remove it off of the main timeline and convert multiple layers into a new symbol. So the first thing we're going to do is create ourselves 3 layers. The very bottom layer will be called background. The second layer will be called symbols. And the top layer is going to be called the shape. All right, so on the background layer, so I'm going to select this layer alone, we're going to create ourselves just what we just said, a background color of sorts. Now, whether it has a stroke or no stroke makes no difference. We actually won't be seeing it. We're going to leave the background color, choose a color that's going to be a nice contrast to the shapes that you've just created. And let's go with this circle or square like this. All right, I'm going to lock out this layer so it stays where it is. It doesn't actually get any objects added to that layer because we need to keep everything separate. Next thing we're going to do is going to go to the symbols layer. Hit up the library, and for this one we're going to grab our target and drag target out to the stage area. And if you hold down the Alt key, we can select multiple ones of these, and this is how we can duplicate them. And I reselected them and I'm duplicating them again, and let's select all of them and Alt duplicate. They can run off the screen, that's okay. We actually probably won't even see most of these, so it's not a huge deal. Let's just do a few more here. Now each one of these instances can be modified. We can modify the tint, we can also modify the shape of these, all of them individually. So for example, by that I mean I've chosen the free transform tool, so if I wanted this one to be larger than the rest, I absolutely can. It obviously does not affect the other ones. Likewise, I could take any one of these and go into the color effect area, and I can modify the tint of any of these into a different color, different intensity, etc. So each one of these instances of symbols can be uniquely displayed on this area. All right, so far this isn't looking too pretty. These extra ones again can be removed. They can stay there, it makes no difference. So the next thing we're going to do is lock out that layer because we are done with our symbols layer. Now we're going to click on the shape layer. So the shape layer, let's go into something simple like a oval, and we're going to do the oval tool, and we're going to make sure that our drawing object mode is turned off. Now if you leave drawing object mode turned on, that's okay, you just have to break it down when you're all done. So by that I mean, so I'm going to create myself a circle off to the side right here and use the opportunity to kind of morph this into a different shape of sorts. All right, so we've got this like this. Oops. Let's hover over here, Make it kind of look like almost like a guitar pick of sorts. All right, so with it selected, and again, this is a punch out object, right? So, but it has to be filled. So the whole color, whatever shape this is, has to have a fill to it. And we're going to drag this on top of whatever the objects are over here. We're going to lock out this layer now. So right now I've got all three layers. All three happen to be locked out. And what we're going to do now is we're going to right click on the shape layer and choose mask. Okay, so this is what we mean by a mask, as in whatever the shape is on the top layer, it's going to only show the properties that are through it. Now, the maroon colored box that's behind there, I really don't want that to appear because I'm losing out on the effect of the actual shape itself. So if you'll notice in the lower left side of our layer area where it says background, I'm going to select that one layer and slightly click and drag it and move it up. You'll see that that shape that keeps appearing, it looks like a sideways wand of sorts. This is going to snap right underneath the word symbols, and by moving it up there, it basically creates the masked shape that we're looking for. So a couple things about this: if your objects are not locked or your layers are not locked, as I just unlocked them, they will stay like this no matter if you are to have them masked or not masked. You will not see them actually appearing in their masked state of mind. So once we lock it, then you'll see it actually working for us here. All right, so that being said, as I promised, I'm going to select all three of these layers. And since I'm on the main timeline, I actually would like this to be converted into a symbol, this guitar pick. So with all three layers selected, we can't just Control X to cut them or go to Edit, Cut, and then go to Create New Symbol. Instead, what we have to do is go to the Edit menu, go down to Timeline, and choose Cut Layers. Cut layers. So now they're all gone, okay? Then we'll go to Insert New Symbol, and we'll call this one the guitar pick. Choose OK. And now I'm going to click once on that empty frame that's at the very bottom here of the first layer. So you actually have to click down here on that particular frame, then go to Edit, go to Timeline, and now we're going to do Paste Layers. And there it is. They're all over here in the lower right side. And there they are. If you want to move them back up to the center point, we're going to unlock all these. We can select all of them and simply put them at the center point and then relock them, and we still have our mask going on. So that's pretty cool. That's how we go about creating a mask, and then how we cut out the objects from the original timeline into their own individual. So when we go back to scene 1, click on this, you'll see that once again it's empty because we obviously cut them out. So in the library area now, this is where our guitar pick is located. Hopefully that was helpful in explaining our scenario there. I'll do one more this time, and I will use a star as a background. So I'll go to Insert New Symbol, and we're going to call this one, we'll just call this one Jazz. All right, on Jazz, we're going to create 3 new layers, just the same. Now this bottom layer doesn't actually have to be there. I prefer to put it there so that way I can see the contrast of colors, but it's not necessary. This middle layer where it says symbols, those have to be symbols. They can be movie clips or graphic symbols. And then again, the top layer has to be a shape. It cannot be a symbol or a drawing object. All right, so let's go with the background. Once again, we'll create a color. Choose a background color. Let's go with this violet purplish color, and then we will lock out that layer. Okay. One more thing about this particular object is that it's a bitmapped shape. It's not a symbol. That's the background color right there. Okay. All right, so we're going to lock that out. Now we're going to go to the symbols layer, and in the library I've already created my star. So let's drag a star in place here, and I'm going to go through a couple different design patterns. So let's add this one here, and then we can Alt click and drag, and then we can rotate this one, maybe shrink it down, create a couple copies of it in a smaller shape, smaller layout. Add the big one, add another big one over here. It can fall off the edge. We don't really know what shape we're going to put on top of it, so we're just going to arbitrarily place these in various places. Oops. And stick this one over here. Those are our rotation points. We just moved, etc. So we can rotate this a little bit this way. Gonna put this one on top of the other one. That's its new rotation point when I just moved it. So kind of each one of them looks a little bit more unique to the other. Okay, so this is a different layout than what we had just completed with the last one. All right, so the shape in which we're going to create on top of this one. So Jazz, let's see. I don't know what I was thinking other than let's do a star, okay? So if we do another star on top of our stars, we're going to go to our poly star tool, okay? So let's click on that, go into the properties, and I'm going to turn drawing object mode on so you can see what this looks like. And again, the color of the star that we're about to create makes no difference because we're not actually going to see it. Click on our shape layer and let's create ourselves a perfectly big star. Let's do that. All right, now this is a drawing object mode turned on. As you can see, there's a blue box on top of it. And so what we need to do in the case of having any kind of symbol or drawing object modes is we'll need to break this down. And let me show you. So I'm going to lock all three layers and right click on the shape layer and choose mask. Let's see, and let's move the symbols back up. And actually that worked, but let me go through the process of how to break it down anyway, in case you are doing this with a symbol versus a drawing object mode. So once this is in place, in the case of this were a symbol, we would just do Control B to break it, or go to Modify and choose Break Apart. And now we do definitely have ourselves a bitmapped shape object. So when we go lock it, we'll get the shapes that we're looking for. And if you're not happy with the position of what you've just created based on the objects that are behind it, feel free to go into that shape layer and you can move this around. We can rotate it to get whatever the exact shape is that you're looking for. For this, we can even make it bigger. Oops. Make this a little bit bigger here. There we go. Lock this out, see if that looks good, and if that's not what you're looking for, we can obviously, let's turn off our shape for the moment, and we can go back onto our symbols layer using our V key, and we can move a few of these where we need them to go so they kind of show through a little bit better with where our mask is taking effect. And then we could try this again, lock them all up, and you can see there's more stars in there. So that's a pretty easy way of creating a masked shape. We'll go back into scene one. Once again, to add these to the actual main area here, there's one mask, and then here is our guitar pick as the other mask. So that is how we create a masked shape. Hope that was helpful.